up, y'all? Welcome back to Bar Exam. I'm your host, Allie Rayner, and I'm here with my co-host, Eric Graham. How you doing, Eric? What's up? And subbing in today, we got Shane Graham.
What's good?
What's up, Shane? What's up? I hope everybody. Unfortunately, though, we did lose a legend. So, coming up for the bar, we are paying tribute to the legendary Irv Gotti, producer, label executive, and the visionary behind Murder Inc. Records. Reports indicate he passed away at 50. Some other reports also mention a stroke and a brain bleed. So, we'll just have to kind of take them at their word for it. But it is unfortunate that he has passed away. But his impact on hip hop and R&B is definitely undeniable. He was instrumental in shaping the careers of artists like Ja Rule, Jay-Z, Ashanti, Jennifer Lopez, and many more. So today, we're breaking down our picks for his best produced songs. Now, he has a lot of them, like a lot. So we didn't even really talk amongst each other about how many we were going to pick. I ended up just picking out 3 that were my favorite. I don't know about the rest of the crew, but we can just dive into them and give our takes on each one. So, fellas, I don't know. Does anybody want to start first? Not really. I can start.
No, you can go ahead first.
Okay. All right. So I'll do my pick. So I picked 3 of them. I'm going to start off with Ashanti and Ja Rule's "Always on Time." I remember this song like always being on the radio in the early 2000s. And I mean, it was like the first song where the both of them really did a full like duet. And it was, I guess, Ashanti's like first debut mainstream, like really being out there. And it was produced by Irv. He was already pretty successful. But the two of them teaming up just became such a big deal because of the success of this record. I think that it was actually one of his most successful. I think it was her first number one. It was his second number one hit. So it really did numbers for sure. Basically, the track is Ja Rule rapping and Ashanti singing on it. Definitely that early 2000s R&B vibe, and they definitely they weren't the first ones to do the hip hop R&B collab, but I will say like they basically perfected it. Like Irv got the formula down packed with them, and after that it was just like off to the races with the two of them. And you'll even see like they always had like this really great bond. You'll see them in each other's videos like all the time. So I just always thought that was really dope. And so the Always on Time solidified the duo's chemistry and just set the stage for future collaborations. And the only thing is that this whole song was very, very successful. I discussed it before on the podcast, how it's just such a huge difference. Her take on this love song and his take on it. So her lyric is, she's mainly singing like the hook. So she says, baby, I'm always on time. There when you call. I'm always on time. I gave you my all. Now, baby, be mine. For him, though, when he gets into his verses, he's definitely still macking and pimping, and he definitely left a lot to be desired with his romance, especially with this lyric. He said, "Bitch, you know better. We live MOB. Money over bitches, murder. INC. I got 2 or 3 hoes for every V." And this is where it gets really wild. Like, you could never get this off in 2025. But apparently in 2000, drugged up off that ecstasy. I'm a playground legend, like Kirk with the Pee-wee. Name a nigga in the league got more game than me. I played hard. There's so many women I fathered. Meet him with scars and send him home hot and bothered. Truth or dare, this life ain't apparently fair. It's like he just is, and I love how he's like, he says some smooth shit at the end, like, but me and you, we got something rare, some BS or whatever, and then it goes back to the hook. So he definitely brought a different, more like gritty type of vibe to the song for sure. But I think that's also, I think the grittiness, especially like with Jaw having such a crazy voice, I think that it kind of helped the record, you know. But looking back on it, I do think that we maybe should have censored just a little bit more in the writing room for some of these lyrics. But it definitely was a hit for sure. And then I just wanted to also mention it was really interesting seeing Ashanti and Irv's relationship towards the end of his life. He'd gone on to he got on to, I think it was Drink Champs. I think he went on Drink Champs podcast, his relationships in the industry, and he talked about Ashanti. And he said that they basically had a relationship, and you know that he wrote like one of her biggest hits, "Happy," after like the first time they messed around. That she says it was more of a fling. She's like, "Calm down, boy. It was nothing like that. We weren't, you know, together. We were an item." But apparently, once she ended up dating Nelly and being serious with him, that's when she says, she says that you should go with Nelly's entertainment or his record label, and basically made death threats to her and her like team. So and him spilling all the tea about their apparent relationship behind the scenes made it. And then for her, she just basically kept her side of the story that, you know, he didn't fuck with her anymore, and she doesn't know why he's bringing it up. But in the end, though, I will say she was very respectful in, like, when she heard about him passing, she made a post on Instagram and said that basically the first line she says, "I can't believe things ended like this, and it makes me so sad. We weren't on the best terms the past few years, but as I've always said, through our ups and downs, I will forever be grateful for everything that you've done for me." So she's definitely, you know, she gave him his flowers in the end. But it is unfortunate to see that like they could have patched that up sooner. But yeah, definitely interesting to see, you know, the rise and fall of that whole relationship of all three of them. But definitely they made history for sure. There's not, you know, yeah, like without a doubt, they took over
and
the early
some of my picks come from that same era. You know, I have Between Me and You with Ja Rule and Christina Milian. You know, that's one of my picks. Always on Time. You know, you brought that up. Down for You. Mesmerize. You know, there were some joints. You know, Put It On Me is one of my favorites, like ever. You know, I love that song. So Ja was really there was a lot of hits, you know, that were coming out in that era, and Irv was instrumental in the majority of them. You know, he was doing the production, and he really, you know, he really had a good ear for beats, because he had a diverse sound to the way he produced. You know, he had a lot of different, you know, it wasn't very easy to tell it was an Irv Gotti beat when you heard it. You know what I mean? It was just usually good, and then you found out later, like, oh, Irv made that. You know what I mean? It wasn't like a Neptune's beat or a Timbaland beat where you could kind of hear it pretty quick. Like, oh, it sounds like Tim made this. Or, oh, it sounds like Pharrell did the drums, or, you know, whatever like that. Like with Irv, it was different. Like, he just made hits, and they all sounded pretty different from each other. So that's one thing I always respected about his game, was the fact that he was able to craft hits for Ja Rule. He could do street joints for Ja Rule, because he did Holla Holla as well, you know. And that was Ja Rule's, really his first hit, but his first, you know, kind of street joint too. You know, Irv did that. You know, he did stuff with DMX. He did stuff with, you know, the other Rough Riders, Jadakiss, you know, different people like that. Irv's done stuff with Game. Irv has done stuff. You know, Irv has a very diverse catalog, and so I definitely just want that to be respected as well. You know, like he had a great ear for just music in general, not just hip hop, not just R&B, but just music.
Yeah.
You know, he was one of the ones. He's a legend for sure. And I do think he was getting, you know, he is recognized for his talent. I do think, like, a lot of the controversies and stuff like that did overshadow it, unfortunately. But I do still feel like people do give him his props for his musical ability. So, you know, I just want that trend to continue. I want us to continue to, you know, give Irv his flowers for what he contributed to the music game, because he gave us a lot of magic for sure.
For sure. Yeah. And you're right. I think the antics definitely didn't help, like, you know, people to realize that he was like a musical genius. I mean, you're right. Almost when I went through his catalog, I just realized like how vast, like, his ear, like, or like how vast his taste is. Like, it was all over the place, and some of it was like him trying to do like a futuristic flow. Some shit was like, I'm gonna sample some super obscure flute from the, you know what I mean? Like, he used to just find the most interesting shit, and really do a great job, you know, either remixing it or just creating something completely brand new, and just taking over, you know, not just the urban, you know, the urban charts, but also, like, you know, the you know, hot, what is it, the Billboard Hot. So yeah, definitely talented, but I think in the later years, especially the last few years, you know, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like we don't, I can't say that like they don't do it to themselves. I feel like a lot of times we don't fully respect our hip hop greats. Sometimes because we're like, oh, you're not as up as so and so. You know what I mean? Because you don't see them with the bajillion dollars that they used to. People kind of like doubt that it even happened. And then with him being such a character and having so much beef with motherfuckers, I think that didn't help either. But yeah, undeniable his talent.
I think it never helps either when if the person that you're beefing with who surpassed you, you know what I mean, as far as financial success is concerned. Obviously 50 passed up what Murder Inc. was doing. But if Murder Inc. was able to maintain the level that they were at, it wouldn't look as bad. But the fact that they went through the Fed trial, the fact that everybody kind of stopped messing with Ja Rule musically, the fact that Ashanti fell back from him and started, you know, kind of just really playing in the background. She wasn't really doing music like that. She was mostly kind of just known as Nelly's girl for a long time, unfortunately. You know, but that's what it was for a while. So it's like, it looks a lot worse when 50 is doing Power and he's doing movies and he's, you know, with Robert De Niro and Al Pacino and he's, you know, buying vitamin water and like all these power plays that he's making. You know, doing the concert that he did in Louisiana, you know, a few months back that was super successful, and the Vegas residency and world tours, like all this stuff. And it looks like you're not doing that well. Like, realistically, we don't know Irv's finances, you know, when he passed. We don't know the situation he was in. He could have still been doing some business stuff that just wasn't as mainstream, but
he could have just been keeping it quiet.
Exactly. So, yeah, man, Eric, what are your thoughts, bro?
I mean, with me, like, for Irv Gotti, he came up at a very interesting time when, like, I was just growing up, because kind of just to piggyback off what you guys were saying, like, Irv had a really strong radio presence just through the different artists that he intermessed with, like, whether it was Ja Rule, whether it was Foxy, whether it was Jay-Z, like, all these different people. He just had such a hold on some of those spaces to where there was a stretch of years where you couldn't go outside and not hear an Irv Gotti record on the radio. Like, I remember Jennifer Lopez and the Ja Rule remix of the I'm Real joint. Like, there was a time where you couldn't go outside and not hear that instrumental being played somewhere just because of how catchy of a record that was. And then, just like you guys said on the contrast, for him to be able to flip around and then do Jay-Z's Can I Get a... Like, the diversity of how dope he was is, I think, a reason why he stood the test of time for so long. And I do think that that picture definitely looks different if Murder Inc. were able to go on and have success for longer standing in the rap spaces like during those early years. Because if you really look at the sound of what music is right now, like a lot of that is like people like to give a lot of like the melodic sound and all that to like Kanye and people like that, and rightfully so in some cases. But a lot of that comes from the intermixing that Irv was able to do with rap and R&B back in those days. Like, if he wasn't able to discover that Ja Rule was able to mix both of them well, like he did, like, we probably wouldn't have a Drake, to be honest with you, or like some of these people like that are really good at mixing rap and R&B. So I just think that Irv, I definitely think he gets a lot of credit for discovering that, but I think at the same time there is a case to be made that maybe he didn't get enough of birthing today's sound while he was still here. But so, just like Shane said, that is definitely important. That needs to be kept aware.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what's crazy, Eric? You literally just said my next two picks, so I'll just mention them too. Yeah, my next pick was going to be J-Lo and Ja Rule's "I'm Real," which, okay, so I had to go back because I wanted to understand, like, oh, okay, this is the Murder Inc. remix or whatever, and it was so successful. So I wanted to hear the original.
Yeah, it's very different.
Like, completely different song. That song is so poppy, and it had like the lyrics were like really not that good, and her vocal. How in the fuck did you get this amazing remix with this name? This is a totally different song.
That remix, it took over. That is the new song now.
It is.
If you remember this, Ali, you remember the controversy because J-Lo said the N-word. And she was, in the song, she said, I forgot exactly what she said, but it wasn't like, like a ER or nothing like that. She said it how niggas say it. You know what I'm saying? But because she's Hispanic and she's not black, there was a debate there, if you consider Puerto Ricans black or not. But at large, they're Hispanic, and there was always that like weird debate if Hispanics can say the N-word or not. You know what I'm saying? So that was like controversial at the time because that was such a pop song, and it was J-Lo, who was sort of looked at like a Britney Spears or a Christina Aguilera or a Jessica Simpson. She was looked at like one of those type of people. So for her to say the N-word is a little different than Cardi B saying it. You know what I'm saying? So there was but the reason I bring all that up is because of what you mentioned when you say the lyrics were so different from the first song to the second song. Ja Rule wrote her parts in the second song.
Makes sense.
So there you go. It makes sense maybe why somebody who doesn't normally use the N-word of her music might have used it in that verse. Somebody who says nigga all the time wrote it in a verse for her in all likelihood. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So.
It's funny that you say that because you could go back and hear her verses and you could tell that Ja Rule wrote that shit.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, like when you look back, especially because when you hear the original song, it's like night and day. Like there's no fucking way sis all of a sudden got her. What is she from? She got her Bronx. Okay, she got her Bronx boogie the fuck on, and all of a sudden. I think now I kind of understand why she gets so much. I'm from Brooklyn or Bronx or whatever, the Bronx bag or whatever. Because before I didn't get it, I was like, no, like it seems like she, has been a part of R&B and just like urban music for a minute now. But no. I definitely think that Irv and Ja Rule really, really helped her kind of cross over to that urban market and be seen as a little bit more of like a crossover artist where she could be good in pop and hip hop and also on the Latin charts, but I don't think she ever would have touched R&B and all like that if Irv and Ja hadn't done this. So definitely still one of my favorites, but yeah, just interesting to see the contrast for sure from what she sounded like before and then the huge difference to what this record sounded like. But it was great. It was definitely a hit.
And I just want to bring up how long Irv has been around because, speaking of Jay-Z earlier, like you brought up, he produced Can I Live on Reasonable Doubt.
Yeah.
So that's, and then he did Money Cash Hoes with Jay-Z and DMX as well. And then with DMX, he did What's My Name, which is one of my favorite DMX songs. So I love that joint. So no, Irv did that, and then was producing stuff like, you know what I mean? Again, it just shows the range, like it's incredible. And then he did one of everybody's favorite DMX joints, How's It Going Down?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then he did What's Love with Fat Joe also. So he's all over the place there, man. Like, shout out to Irv, like, I will admit that because I was instant to take my judgment, you know what I'm saying, and for me to completely turn on all the shit I liked.
He was an impressionable.
Like, I was Courtney now. Yeah, I was an impressionable youth, you know what I'm saying, and that wave was just impactful. But now that I'm an adult and I can look back on it, it's like that music that they were producing, it was really incredible.
Absolutely. And also, we also mentioned Jay-Z. My pick for him in my last pick is Can I Get A with him and Emil and
Ja Rule.
That was Ja Rule's debut first.
I always forget.
Mm-hmm.
Was it really? I didn't know that. I actually really liked because it was actually Ja Rule's song. I guess Ja Rule told Irv how he wanted the lyrics to go, like the hook to go, how he wanted the flow to go, like the beat a little bit, and he wanted it for himself. I guess Irv was listening to it in the office, and apparently Jay-Z walked in, liked it, didn't say much, left, and then hit him up later, called him like a little while later and was like, so that song, like, let me get it. But I think it's dope that Ja Rule's still on it, because it's definitely a hit. I feel like if you make a hit like that, you should be able to get a verse too. So I definitely like that song. And Emil, I feel like she killed it. I liked it. I didn't know she got dropped soon after, but she killed it.
I like that too because you can. There's another like nice little underlying story in there that's like kind of untold. Jay kind of had to go into Ja Rule's world a little bit for that record. You know what I'm saying? Because I had the structure of like how he wanted to format it for Jay to be on it and to still kind of go into Ja's world at the same time. Like, shows how much he accepted of the idea too. So
yeah.
I think like part of it is also one of the part that goes on.
It was a really bouncy record. Like for Ja Rule, it would really, I don't know if it would have been as successful. I like the way that Jay-Z did it, but like, that could just be, in hindsight. I could just be biased, but definitely one of my favorites. An album. So I feel like that was already a pretty big album already too. So having that one on there too just set the world ablaze. So,
and it's on the Rush Hour soundtrack. That's on that during the one iconic scene where the cruising in the Corvette and Chris Tucker's doing the his face. Like.
I love that scene, and I was thinking that when I was listening to this song, I was like, "Am I bugging?" But I could have sworn it was in Rush Hour. and that was a huge movie.
Like specifically that scene, that was such a good placement. Because everybody remembers that scene. Like, they use that scene in the commercials. Like, people mimic that scene when they're dancing. Like, people who don't know how to dance, they'll do the fake Chris Tucker dance. You know what I mean? Like, that specific, like, clip, like, that was a meme before memes were a thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
So it's like, that's, to have your music associated with that clip, I feel like made the song that much bigger. You know what I mean? And then for that to be, like I said, Ja Rule's debut, first on a mainstream level, that's huge. So
definitely. So how did you guys feel though about how 50 Cent decided to break the news to the world? He went to Instagram. I'm gonna try to pull it up so I can see what he said verbatim. I just remember being on Instagram and being like, jaw drop, like, yo, if Irv really passed away, at the time I was saying this to myself, like, if Irv really just passed away, this is the most disrespectful shit. Like, don't get me wrong, I heard there's a lot of beef between them. I didn't really know too much about it, to be totally honest, so maybe y'all could explain to me and the audience. But yeah, he definitely was.
The reason he reacted that way, and the reason why I understand his reaction, even though, you know, I don't agree with it, obviously, you know what I mean? I don't necessarily condone it per se, but do I understand where it comes from? Absolutely, because you have to look at it like this. 50 Cent got shot 9 times, and the person who most people feel is responsible for that, you know, who he alluded to in the movie, so I don't think I'm saying nothing too crazy here, but a guy named Supreme, you know, he's a big drug dealer out of Queens, and so it was potential that Supreme set up 50 Cent and got him shot, you know what I'm saying, those 9 times, you know, due to street stuff. But Irv was part of Supreme's crew. And so when Irv and them were blowing up, this is providing different opportunities for Supreme to, you know, kind of get his way into the music industry, start making some of his illegal money legal, you know, get out of the streets and start living a good life, you know, all of that kind of stuff. Well, 50 is vengeful, and you tried to kill me. And Irv is your boy, so now I'm going to destroy everything around you. You know what I mean? So it started with that. And then there were some, you know, different studio run-ins, different times where 50 and G-Unit crew ran into murdering crew and physical blows were exchanged. You know what I'm saying? There was a fist fight between Ja Rule and 50 Cent. There was a stabbing incident that happened between a couple of Ja Rule's artists and Tony A on 50 Cent. Like, this is all documented stuff. So, you know, this is out there. They've all spoken on it. This is confirmed. You know what I mean? So it started with 50 and Supreme, and then it bled over kind of into Irv Gotti with them being it like, you're the rap connection to Supreme, and then that turned street. You know what I mean? So if you look at it like that, it's like, you know, if you're connected to the person that tried to kill me, in my mind, I'm not sad that you're dead. You know what I mean? And we've been trading shots for 20 years. You know what I mean? It ain't like we've never been on good terms, ever. You know what I mean? So, you know,
I was saying I wasn't
that actually. Sorry, I was just gonna say I had personal experience with that. I'm not gonna say I was happy when I found out that somebody died, but somebody I had beef with in high school who passed away. I did not feel anything. Like, I'm not gonna say I was happy, but I definitely wasn't sad. You know what I mean? So I can kind of, if you add on that person tried to kill me, maybe I would have been happy. You know what I'm saying? So
that's true, and that explains a lot, because I didn't hear about the stabbing part, but I didn't know about. We always hear about 50 Cent getting shot. Never knew that it was connected to Irv. Sort of, kind of. So, you know, thank you for clearing that up. That definitely makes more sense. I just found the quote. If you guys want me to read it, it is pretty wild though what he said in the comments or in his caption on IG. He said, "I'm smoking on that Gotti pack. Nah, God bless him. LOL." So, I mean, I guess he's trying to make it a joke. try to clean it up a little bit, but not too much. Then he still posted a photo of Gotti, or it's not Gotti, of Herb, smoking hookah or something like that, smoking hookah, next to a tombstone, something crazy. It was just wild. His Photoshop skills, I don't think.
No, he did all that, but I mean, it's not surprising either. That's the thing. I don't think people understand about 50. It's like
I really always thought that he was gonna like grow up at one point. Oh no, actually, yeah, it's actually a picture of 50 with. Wow.
A lot of people just forget that this is the same guy who went at everybody because they did that I'm from New York track with Ja Rule, and everybody that was on that song, even if they didn't say anything about 50, but because you were working with Ja Rule, you all get dissed, and he went and dissed like everybody was on that song on the next album that he dropped. So
let's talk about
the same dude like did that. Like I'm not surprised by it.
Let's talk about the trickle effect that caused, right? Like, let's really break that down for a second. Cameron and Jim Jones in 2025 don't get along because of 50 Cent, because of an interview that happened last month or 2 months ago or whatever now, where 50 and Cam were joking about when they were beefing back then, and Jim Jones came out on stage with 50 because Jim and Cam had behind the scenes issues that nobody knew about at the time, and that kind of confirmed it. And 50 knew, so he was like, this was his quote on Cam's podcast. He said, I was just throwing the bait out to see if Jimmy was going to bite on it. And they were just laughing and joking, but Jimmy didn't like the way that sounded. So he said some stuff, and now him and Cameron are been going back and forth. You know what I mean? So that's a direct effect from back then. The New York joint, like you said, he went at Jadakiss after that, and he went at Fat Joe after that. It's two guys that Game refused to go at, which was the initial reason that he got kicked out of G Unit. Because 50 wanted everybody like, hey, well, this is what we do, you know what I'm saying? They're attacking me, we attack them back. And Game was like, but I like them, I'm cool on that. Like, I'll go at Ja Rule with you all day, but Fat Joe, Nas, Jadakiss, no, I'm cool on that. And 50 kicked him off, kicked him out of G Unit on the radio. So that starts the Game beef, which is still kind of on and off 20-something years later. Fat Joe, he's just Fat Joe, who's affiliated with Fat Joe, Rick Ross, DJ Khaled, all of these guys. Again, Fat Joe and 50 have squashed their beef. I think Khaled and them squashed the beef. Rick Ross is still beefing with 50 Cent to this day, which just stopped the concert from happening with Big Meech, who just got out of prison because now 50 is, potentially unveiling the fact that he might have done some telling. And so Rick Ross is getting ready to do a concert with Big Meech. 50 comes out with this information, all of a sudden the concert's canceled. So you're still fucking with Rick Ross, essentially, all this time later. And that really stems from the Fat Joe beef, which stems from the fact that he did a song with Ja Rule. So, like, look at all these you see what I'm saying? Like, that's why it's not surprising that he reacts like that, because this is all 20-something years later, and it all stems from that song.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
That's crazy work. Like, to have so many enemies. I've always known that 50 is wild. And I always know he's petty, but I really thought of that it was more so for attention, to be totally honest. But, I mean, the way that you explain it, it just sounds that, like, he truly just holds a grudge like no other person in hip-hop. Like, he just will not let shit go. Now, I understand not letting go if somebody's trying to kill you, but people jumping on songs together, come on now. That is the industry. People
and he said ultimately that was the only reason that he was able to get over the Fat Joe and Jadakiss beef. He said because he didn't even realize at the end of the day, that is all it's over. They did a song with a nigga I don't like. I can get over that. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, street rules dictates that if you know I have an enemy, you know what I'm saying? If you know that this nigga right here I don't get along with, and you're standing next to him, then you kind of know in my mind, I'm like, oh, y'all are together, so y'all are against me. You know what I'm saying? So that's the way he said he was looking at it at the time. He was still carrying some of those street principles in the music industry, and he realized you can't do that in every situation. So that's why he squashed it ultimately with Jadakiss and D-Block and Fat Joe and them, you know, but Rick Ross kept going at him. So that's why he's like, well, fuck you, man. I'm not going to squash it with you. You're still talking shit. So we can do this all day. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, and it does sound like Ross is here for it. Because, I mean, why else? I don't know. I mean, I guess you do have that song. He refers himself as Big H a lot. But, I mean, I just feel as though you already knew 50 was doing the whole power, not power, I'm sorry, the whole show, BMF. You were doing that, 50 was doing BMF Junior.
Apparently he's not doing it anymore.
Apparently he's pulling that because of this whole situation. Just because.
He don't play.
He don't. And I didn't even know about the concert, but I heard that he was having this reaction, like, just off a photo.